All right, today we're going to take a look at replacing your motherboard here. This is the main motherboard for your machine. If you step back and look at the cubby, you know, it has all these little plugs here. First thing you're going to want to do though is shut your power off, okay? You have just your little blue on-off switch, so make sure your power's off, and you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver. I'm going to use a drill, same thing, but all you really need is a Phillips head. If you have a drill, use it just because we have to undo like 6 or 7 screws. It just makes it quicker, but you can definitely do it with just a regular Phillips head. So what we'll do, first thing is if you take a look at all your plugs here, all of these plugs are a little different, so you can't really put them in the wrong place. But I would still just take a picture because we got to unhook these plugs in the front, and then there's 3 plugs in the back that we got to unhook here. So just go ahead, take a couple pictures so you have a reference, and then you just jiggle them and pull them out. There's no clasp or anything on these front ones, they just pull off. The back ones though, they do have a clasp. So there's 3 in the back. And these ones are a little bit difficult. But you see it has like a little clasp there. So you just got to press the clasp. The middle one's the hardest one to get off. Let me get this other one first. This middle one's the tough one. So just kind of press down on that with your thumb. There you go. Okay, so you see that's the hard one. In any case, getting them off is all you got to deal with back here. We'll put these back on once we replace the board. So now you should have 2 screws on. We're going to take off this whole box. So there should be a screw right here and a screw right here. You know, there's just 2 on the left side. All right, back the phone up a little. Sometimes there'll be one on the right side, on one of the right side holes, but you may not have one, so don't worry about it. Usually not. Usually it's just the 2 on the left. So I'll go ahead and I'll undo those. Sometimes too, you kind of got to pull up on it a little, because like the last spin of the screw, because they're tapping screws, you know, just to get it out of there. So I'm going to set my screws aside. Okay. Okay. So now we have our box, and this is what I meant about the right side holes. Usually there's nothing in on here, and in the future the boards are going to be up here. But so if your motherboard's up here, everything still applies. It's just that your motherboard's up here. They're going to start putting them up in the door instead of in this like kind of hard to reach cubby area. So we get this out. Now we just got to undo the 4 screws on the outside of this so we can get this cover off. Okay, so we got our screws off. Now this little cover, and as you can see, well here, let me take this off. So as you can see, the side of the board that has all these little connections is the side where when you hook it back, again, you can't really put it on wrong. If you put it on the wrong way, it doesn't match up on the other side. So just a little side note on that. So we get our cover off, and then now we gotta take off the 4 screws here. And this is where you want to just be a little careful. Try not to scratch your motherboard or anything like that. Don't lay this motherboard once we take, well, the old one you take out will be bad, but your new replacement board, make sure you keep it in this pink bubble wrap. Don't lay this on carpet. You know, it's just like a circuit board for a computer, but if you're not familiar, you know, they can be kind of sensitive to static. So just be careful with this. Leave this on something protective. Okay, so let's take off our 4 screws here. And I'm going to separate these screws. I don't want to mix these up with those screws. They're a different size. You can see the screws in there? So don't mix them up. Don't mix these screws off the motherboard up with those ones. Set these somewhere separate because we'll screw that back down. And this is where using a drill just is a lot quicker. Okay. So I'm just going to stick those in my pocket. Okay, so now that's pretty much it. Now the board, you know, you just take it off. Just, you know, again, remember the way that the bracket is. The big sockets go on this side and then the open side. So this one's the bad one. Okay. I'm going to set this aside. And then we're going to take our replacement and just screw it back in there. And that's pretty much all there is to it. If we're sending you a board, we're sending you one that's already going to have all the settings and everything. So you'll just swap it. You won't need to do no settings or nothing. So as you can see, we just put it in there the right way. Cut out for the big sockets. And then we're just going to line it up and screw it back down. Let's see if I can get a few of these started. I don't think so. No. If you do use a regular screwdriver, try to use one with a magnetic head, as you can see, so that way it's a little easier to just get it screwed in there, because it's kind of hard to thumb the screws in on the motherboard to get them pre-started. But yeah, it doesn't take long. It'll take 5 minutes to swap it, and this shouldn't be happening too often, so I'm assuming very few people will have to do this. All right, so now we got our board back on. We're going to go ahead. We're going to put our cover, and again, our cover can only go on the right way. It's not going to work the bad way. So as you can see here, you know, it has a little cutout for all of these. So you just kind of scoot it over the top here, and it goes on just like that. Okay, so it should all be nice and flush. And then we're going to go ahead and I'll get these screws on. Okay, so now at this point, we're ready to just stick it back in there and plug everything up. I would actually plug in at least your backside plugs for the big socket of plugs. Plug these in before you screw this down, because these are hard to plug in from behind there. So we'll just go ahead and plug these in now. And again, all the plugs are a little different, so you can't really do it wrong. Except for this, on this back one, it's got to go, you know, there's a 6-pin here. I guess technically this one could go over here, and you wouldn't want that. The little we call it a 6-pin Molex. It only has 5 pins, but it's a 6-hole Molex. That goes over where it says MDB port. You just kind of follow it. And then the 4 goes in there. So it goes just like that. Okay, and then I would go ahead and screw it down, because if you screw it down and then try to put these in from the back, it's just a lot harder. The front ones you can do easy enough once it's down in here. So, okay, so now I'll just line this up and screw this down, and that's going to be it. So I'll probably just get my first one in here on the front. And I just gotta line up the hole there. Okay. So that's pretty much it. And now at this point, again, you can use your picture as reference for your plugs here, but these don't really go into the wrong, like I couldn't plug it in here even if I wanted to. And you can kind of tell by the way that the cables, how long they are, where they kind of go. Okay, just make sure that these are on good. This one goes over here. Just make sure they're pushed in all the way. And in fact, once you do these plugs, I'll show you in a second, we're going to, let me set this drill down. Once you have all your plugs on there, actually mush the wires. Once you know that you got your plastic seated good, mush the wires into the plastic, like push them into the plastic. Because with these little wires, sometimes if you're pulling plugs on and off a lot, you know, the plug's on there, but one of the little wires inside can kind of yank out a little. It's just an extra little thing I like to do. So just give them a nice little push all the wires into the plastic, make sure it's good. We're good on the back. And then, yeah, and then that's pretty much it. Once you're done, you should just be able to turn your machine back on. And you'll know in a second, you start getting your boot up screen and everything, that means you're good to go. So I hope that helps you. If you have any other questions at all, feel free to let us know. And we thank you for choosing Global Vending.